Please like, share, favorite, comment, watch to the end, share to your story. This is important. We are living in the information age, one of the most connected times in human history. There is absolutely no excuse if you are in a position of power, privilege, safety, and comfort to not seek out resources and understand what is happening in the world. And for those who say, I don't know what to say, it's too complex, I don't know enough about it, there are books. There are books about every subject, including the ones the mainstream media doesn't talk about, including the genocides and the wars that don't receive mainstream media coverage. There are books, there are articles, there are firsthand accounts, there are content creators. It is your responsibility as a free person, as a person who has power, privilege, comforts, economic, social freedom, to learn about, amplify, and try to free and advocate on behalf of others. As Toni Morrison once wisely said, this isn't a grab bag candy game. When you get these wonderful jobs, when you get all of this power and privilege, it is your job to reach back and lift someone else up. If you're watching this from an iPhone, if you're watching this from the safety of your home, if you're watching this with blankets and pillows and you're all cozied up in your bed, you have the safety, freedom, and privilege that the people of Congo do not have. Please read this book. Try to understand how these huge companies and governments have exploited, killed, and brutalized millions of people so that you can have the freedoms that you do. And ask yourself, what are you going to do with that freedom? Are you just going to accept the horrors of the world, or are you going to try to change something? Are you going to try to learn and advocate for change? There are organizations, humanitarian resources, nonprofits, tons of activists who are trying desperately to get their voices heard and to help the millions of people in the Congo who are being brutalized. And if you have freedom, if you have safety, why not use your voice to uplift those who don't? This is a great background book to just learn about more of the history of what's happened, not only with King Leopold and the past genocides of Congo, but this iteration of the current conflict, cobalt and coltan mining, and how it has literally enslaved children, men, women who are brutalized, beaten, and under the constant threat of M23 militia groups. But more than that, the people of Congo, whose resources other governments steal so that we can have iPhones and social media and all of these things, they don't actually have as much access to these same devices and social media themselves. They don't have the privilege that we do, the time, the energy to be able to share their stories, because only 4.9% of the total population even has social media. The Congo is a rich, wonderful, amazing country filled with joy, laughter, complexity, culture, art, amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. And even despite all of the odds, despite everything that's against them, there are so many incredible creators, artists, artisans, storytellers. Despite trauma, war, conflict, this is a country of resilient, incredible people. The very least we can do is amplify those voices, amplify the activists, amplify the Congolese content creators. Not only talk about the war, the devastation, the trauma, but also amplify the joy. Amplify the beautiful voices of the Congo who are bearing witness to their history. Amplify the voices of the Congo who are bearing witness to their history and who are more than just what has happened to them. It is truly our responsibility to learn about this because we are all profiting from their labor. If you're watching this on a phone, that phone was made with minerals that were stolen from the Congolese people. You are watching these TikToks, you are watching these videos on a phone, on apps that were literally made with the blood, exploitation, sweat, and tears of people millions of miles away in the Congo. And that is wrong. It is wrong that they don't get to have the riches that are on their land. It's wrong that this was stolen from them. It's wrong that they are under constant threat of violence. It's wrong that they're being constantly exploited. So we have a dual mission here. One, to learn about what has happened to them, what is still happening to them, to advocate for all of the groups on the ground who are doing great work to help. And then two, to celebrate the Congolese content creators, artists, amazing people who are sharing their art, sharing their wisdom, sharing their culture, sharing their passion, sharing their joy, because any people is more than the trauma that has happened to them. So we have this dual purpose as free people to bear witness to their trauma, to their pain, to their struggle, but also to their beauty, to their grace, to their intelligence, to their grit, to their art, to their creativity. And because we as Westerners are benefiting from this slave labor, it's not only the least we can do, it's what we must do. We didn't have a choice with what these governments did. We weren't there on the ground doing the horrible things to them, but we bought the products that horrible violence enabled. And because of that, we have to live with the guilt of knowing that our power and privileges is because of the exploitation and detriment of people in the Congo. That's wrong. That's wrong that we should get to have these safe, wonderful, beautiful, happy lives, and they should be under the constant threat of violence from military groups, from US governments, from France, from Rwanda, that they should have to constantly fear for their lives and work themselves to death. That's wrong. They shouldn't be able to speak out against what they're facing because they might get fired from the only job they have access to. That is wrong. So it is our job to fight for their joy and fight against their oppression, to amplify their joy, to amplify beauty and intelligence and grit and artistry and creativity, to amplify all of the good things, but also to bear witness to the horrible pain and suffering and to fight against that. We have this dual purpose and we must continue to enact it. I will continue to talk about this forever. And I hope that you will too, because this is a global issue and it's complicated and it's not going to be solved right away. And it's not something that a hashtag or a video is going to fix. I have shared lots of resources on all of my platforms, from the Congolese aid organizations, the Congolese organizations that are working with sexual assault victims, so many different things that are trying to help and trying to do good. But it's complicated. It is systemic. It's like you're trying to undo a systemic global oppressive power force that is coming from these multi-trillion-dollar companies, and that is going to require sustained effort. This isn't going to be a just today thing, a just this week, a just this year. This is going to be years and years of day in and day out effort. And one of the first things we can do is just bear witness, understand, read about. This book is an incredible resource. It's an incredible resource. It's long and it's dense, but it's going to teach you what you need to know. And then with that information, you can go to those activist groups. You can give money. You can give time. You can lobby your lawmakers. You can write letters. You can raise funds. You can start drives of aid to actually make a difference on the ground. And this has got to be a sustainable thing, not something that as soon as, people stop making videos about it, we just stop caring. No. This has got to be a thing that day in and day out for the rest of our lives, likely, that we have to amplify and encourage, because this is more important. This is just more important than whatever other little things we've got going on. The liberation of the Sudanese people, of the Congolese people, of the Palestinian people, it is just more important than our silly videos. It just is. And so we have to take the time to learn. We have to take the time to amplify, because we have power and privilege. No matter how oppressed you might feel in America, if you are living in a free nation, if you have the freedom of movement, if you have the freedom of choice, you have freedom. You have freedom that they don't have. And that's wrong. It's wrong that we live in such an unequal, unjust world. And it is our job to fight against that. We have to fight for what we believe in. We have to raise our voice. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's exhausting, but we have to do it. There's just no choice. If you decide to know about something horrible, it's like the famous Ursula K. Le Guin story, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. If you know that there is the being that is being tortured in the basement of your community, read this story because it'll make sense. It's an intro creative writing story. But if you know that and you continue to just gallivant around your life, you are endorsing, you're co-signing that. But you can walk away from Omelas. You can walk away from this construct. You can fight for what's right. You can fight for the people who are being persecuted. So please do that. Start by reading this book. It's a simple first step.